We begin the current Daf of Shabbos Daf Yomi. We begin 3 lines Daf at the top of the Yamid, where our shiur is co-sponsored by, again, I know I've repeated this so many times, I feel like it's a little redundant, but Kalzach and Yecheskel, again, yesterday by the bris of our new son, Aaron, we said that the Ahava was overflowing, and it was like, Kamayim apam lapanim, Kain leva adam la'adam, it really was something very special, and it's co-sponsored by Torah Anytime and by Daf Yomi. Some of the concepts we're going to speak about in today's daf is that regarding a basic knesset should be the tallest building in the city. What to look for when choosing an employer. Certain people, one should not try to have them as your boss. The effectiveness of fasting to nullify bad dreams to the extent of when you're supposed to fast it. Halachas of interrupting one's Torah in order to daven, depending on what type of a person you are, if you actually have to stop learning to daven. Certain safeguards to prevent one from an Issa D'Oraisa. Our next Mishnah is going to talk about carrying just before Shabbos begins. We're concerned that if we let you carry even Erev Shabbos, you might come to carry on Shabbos. Reading by candlelight on Shabbos, that we're concerned that if you're reading by the candlelight, you might come to tilt it so that you can get more light, which is the Melacha D'Oraisa of Havara. And forbidding Izav and Zav to eat together, although they're both tamei, but if they eat together, then they might come to be intimate, which is an Issa D'Oraisa, and therefore they say it's forbidden. So we begin the current daf, and it's a continuation from teachings from Ba'amar Rava Bar Machasya Amar Rav Chama Bar Gurya Amar Rav, which was taught on the previous daf. And the Gemara has many different Amoraic teachings from the same Amor. And this is Halacha L'Maisa, which the Poskim actually are busy trying to resolve why we don't actually follow this rule L'Maisa. Kol Ir, any city, Shegagesel Gavayin Mebesek Knesses, where the roofs of the housetops are above the height of the shul, L'Sayv Charv, at the end it's going to be destroyed. Shamak says the pasuk in Ezra, L'Raimim es Beisel Ekeinu, to elevate the house of our God, U'lahamed es Charvaisav, and to restore its ruins, which Rashi says, through that we remarried the end of the pasuk, Lasas Lanu Geder B'Yehuda, to make for us a fence, a built place in Judea, that it shouldn't be destroyed. You see that if we elevate the house of God, we make the shul higher than the rest of the buildings, then it's going to stand. Now, but then therefore that infers that one should not make his rooftop higher than that of the shul. And you find sometimes in the old shuls that they actually were very tall edifices, they were the tallest buildings. Now it says the Gemara, when we say your roof cannot be higher than that of the shul, it's specifically houses of kashkushe, but forts of avuri and towers, things which are not regarding residential purposes. Less lamba, that we're not concerned about. That could be taller, but regarding someone's house, you're supposed to have the shul higher than that of your house. Now, Amr Vashi says, he says, I actually made sure that this town of Masa Machasya, the Loi Chorva, that it shouldn't be destroyed because Rav Ashi was the Rosh Hashiva Masa Machasya, and he prevented them from making their houses higher than that of the shul. He had the authority, he was the final word, and he told everyone who was building a house, don't make it taller than the shul, and therefore he saved it from being destroyed. Says the Gemara, Ayva Charva, but Masa Machasya was destroyed. Says the Gemara, from that sin of having your house taller than the shul, for that reason it wasn't destroyed, because he didn't let them build their houses taller. But yes, it was destroyed for a different reason. We continue in the next Gemara. Again, another teaching from Amar Rava Bar Machasya Rav Chama Bar Gurya Marav. Says, Tachas Yishmael, better to work and for a Yishmael, for an Arab, Tachas Nachri, and not to work for a foreigner, which refers to an Edomite, someone from Rome, which they were more wicked, and therefore don't work for us, for the descendants of Esav. And Tachas Nachri actually rather work for the descendant of Edom, Tachas Chavar, and not underneath the Chavarim, which Rashi says that it's a nation that was from the Persians. Taisa explains that wasn't really that they were from the Persians. It means that they were secondary to the Persians. They were amongst the Persians, but they were separate people which were very wicked. They're very destructive type of people, and therefore don't work for them. And Tachas Chavar, rather be an employer for a Chavar, V'loi Tachas Talmid Chacham, and don't work for a Talmid Chacham. Because if you're going to provoke your employer that's a Talmid Chacham, you're going to get punished because he's a Talmudic scholar and God's going to take revenge. So don't work for him. And Tachas Talmid Chacham, actually better to work for a Talmid Chacham, V'loi Tachas Yosem Almana, don't work for a widow or an orphan, because by them their tears come very easily because they went through a lot of trauma in their life. And the Hashem says so many times in the Torah that if you afflict them, you're going to get punished. So again, obviously it doesn't mean that they should be without workers, but it means to say if you have a choice with all things considered, don't work for them because you're going to do something wrong and you're going to get them upset and they're going to cry, you're going to get punished. So therefore that's the order of who the employer should be, which there are certain individuals that one doesn't want to be an employee. Another teaching from Amar Rava Bar Machasya Rav Chama Bar Gurya Marav. It says, Kol Chayli, says any sickness, which there's different types of illnesses our Gemara is going to mention. Chayli means to say like a long sickness that one keeps on deteriorating and he keeps on losing energy. For example, like a fever or when his head is not well. So says Rav, any chayli, any sickness, but just not to have a sickness of the stomach, because that's really bad thing. So to kol ke'ev, any pain, which is something that comes and goes, like for example, tooth pain, which is the pain or of a makkah, of a wound. You could deal with that, but not the pangs of the heart. That's something that's too challenging, and therefore one shouldn't have that. Or kol mechush, any ache, which mechush means to say it's something just a temporary thing, and therefore that's like on Shabbos, you're not allowed to treat a mechush ba'alma. It just means to say it's an ache, but it's not something that's necessarily such a permanent thing. But not to have a headache. So it's talking about you could deal with all these types of things, all chayli or cave or mechish, but not the chayli ma'ayim, not a stomach illness, and not the heart pains, and not the headache. And so to kol ra, you could deal with any evil, v'lo isha ra, but not a wicked woman. That's the ra. That's very challenging and very difficult. That's another teaching from Rav. Another teaching from Rav Machasio Amar Rav Chama Bagurio Amar Rav says, Im yu kol hayamim joy. He says, if all the seas in the world would be ink, the agamim and the marshes would be kumasim, where you have these reeds sticking out. If you took every one of those reeds and you make quills out of them, which are the pens. V'shamayim, you made the heavens into ureus, into parchments. V'chol b'nei adam lav lavar, and then all the people in the world would be scribes. Ema speakim lichtav. Even with all that, it wouldn't be sufficient to write chalala shel rashus, the depth of the government, meaning to say, the depth of their thought process, where the king has to, the president or whatever it is, has to take into consideration so many countries, how much taxes, how many wars, how many judgments, all of that in one day. It would be impossible to write all the calculations that has to go into the cheshbonis of the government. Says Gemara Micro, what's a pasuk that illustrates this? Amar Masharsh, it's a pasuk in Mishlei. It says Shemayim l'roim, the heaven to the heights, the eretz l'oimik, and the earth to the depth. V'leiv malachim, and the heart of the kings, ein cheker, is beyond investigation. I mean to say, you can't even contemplate how much thought has to go into all these cheshbonis. When he makes an announcement, it's not just like, okay, the ramifications are so extensive that you wouldn't be able to write down all the calculations that go into it. Another teaching from Amar Rav Machasi, Amar Rav Chama Bagur Yom Rav. He says, and this is actually halacha, although today we don't really practice a tainis chalam, but yafa tainis l'chaloim. A fasting for a dream, what's known as a tainis chalam, is effective. Meaning when someone has a bad dream, so he fasts the following day, it's as effective ke'eshla na iris, like fire is to a bundle of flax, where it grabs on fire, that's it, the whole thing's consumed. That's how effective is a fast to ameliorate the effects of a bad dream. Amrav Chizdi says, and this is the halacha, boy bayom, it means that day that you had the dream. And so to Amrav Yisrael, he says even more, it's afil b'Shabbos. Friday night you had a bad dream, you wake up in the morning, you're going to fast even on Shabbos. That's the effectiveness of a tainis chalam. Now the Gemara brings the story that Rabbi Shua bereid Ravidi, Ikla Bei Ravashi, went to the house of Ravashi, Abdulay Igla Tilsa, they made for him, which in the Talmudic times that was considered the ultimate piece of meat, which was a calf that was a third born from its mother, which is the most choicest meat, because an animal, when it's young, when it has its first or second child, is not so healthy, not so robust. So it's not going to be such a strong child that the meat is going to be. But the third born calf was really, really tasty, and they came and they served him the best steak in the world. So they said to him, "Lit midi, let the master taste something. This is $300 an ounce. This is the real thing." He said to them, "But I'm fasting today." They said to him, doesn't the master hold lahad Rabbi Yehuda, what Rabbi Yehuda said? Then Rabbi Yehuda, he says, and this is actually a halacha, a person could fast, he could borrow from his fast, and pay back, meaning although he was supposed to fast today, he could say, I'm not going to fast today, I'm going to borrow the eating of today, and I'm going to pay back on a different day where I could eat, and I'm going to fast on that day. So you don't get this steak just every day, go ahead and fast a different day. So Amar Lahem, he said to them, it's not just a regular fast. Tainis chalamhu. This is a fast regarding a bad dream. Rav, which is the teaching we mentioned before, Yafa tainis lachaloim. A fast is effective to a dream, ke'esh l'na'oris, like fire is to a bundle of flax. And Rav Chizdi says, it's specifically that day. Rav Yisrael even goes so far to say, for the Shabbos, and therefore today's the day. I'm not going to borrow and fast a different day, because it's not going to have the same effectiveness as a tainis chalam has for a dream if it's going to be on a different day. Now we go back to the halacha of the Mishnah that said ve'im ischilu. We said about many different activities that one shouldn't start samach lemincha close to the time of mincha, because one might be drawn after that and miss davening at all. We said in the Mishnah ve'im ischilu, but if they started imafsik and they won't have to stop, you could continue doing it as we explained from Taisus. You'll have time afterwards to daven mincha. Now, but then the Mishnah continued, but mafsikin lekriyishma. We do stop for kriyishma because that's dairaisa. But the Mishnah continues, and that's what the Gemara's question is actually on the v'chulu, ve'im mafsikin letfila. And you don't stop for davening. So says the Gemara, I don't understand. Hatana l'reisha, you already said in the beginning. You said, eim mafsikin, you don't stop, and we're talking about davening. So why do you have to say again, ve'im mafsikin letfila? You already said that you don't stop for davening. Why are you repeating, being redundant, and saying again, after you said that you stop for kriyishma, and you say you don't stop for davening? Says the Gemara, actually, because seifa asoin l'divrei Torah. The seifa is actually talking about something else. It's not referring to the activities you mentioned, the reisha. It's talking about someone who's in the middle of learning Torah. We're saying, well, if someone's in the middle of learning Torah, he stops for kriyishma, but he does not stop to daven. The time like learn the brisa. Chaverim shayu eiskim b'Torah. Although the word chavarim, just to clarify, although it looks like the same word, that's a chavar. That's a nation that's like the Persians. Although it's the same letters, here it's chaverim shayu eiskim b'Torah. The Talmudic scholars that are learning in Torah. So Allah is mafsikin. They stop their Torah lekriyishma. Because that's biblical. Its times are very specific. B'shech b'chav kumecha. But ve'eim mafsikin l'tfila, someone that's a Talmid Chacham is learning Torah, actually doesn't have to stop learning to daven. Now, there's an important clause over here. Amar b'yechon, and this is actually the halach l'maisa. Leishanu ela kugen Reb Shimon ben Yochai v'chaver. We only said this, that you don't have to stop your learning to daven if you're like Reb Shimon ben Yochai and his colleagues, sheteirasan umnasan, that their Torah is their occupation, that all they do is they learn Torah. And this is the halacha, and this is the common practice. But us, since we stop our learning for our business, we stop for other mundane purposes. So if we stop to go to work, for sure we're going to stop to daven, say kriyishma, and to daven, and therefore for us that's a moot point. But in the Mishnah, when it says that you don't stop for tefillah, was not talking about the first activities. I already said. It's talking about you don't stop for tefillah if you're middle learning Torah, if you're like Rabbi Shimon Yochai b'chaverim. But everybody else has to stop for Shemayin Esrei too. But on that, the Gemara continues to ask. He's talking about someone that's teirasam nasan, that he has to stop for kriyishma, but for Tanya in the Brisa it says kashem she'im mafsikin l'tefillah, just like you don't stop for davening, kach ein mafsikin l'kriyishma. So therefore you also don't stop for kriyishma. Who is it that doesn't stop for kriyishma? Seemingly the most that you could be that you would not have to stop is Reb Shimon ben Yochai b'chaver, but you already said Reb Shimon ben Yochai b'chaver that they'd have to stop for kriyishma. Who is it that doesn't have to stop for even kriyishma? Says the Gemara, Kitani Ahi. When did we learn that brisa? Is be'ibur shana. Is the intercalation is when they're making a leap year, when they're extending the year. What they used to do is they would take up 7 Talmid Chacham to an upper story, and they would discuss and go back in deliberations to see does the year need an extra month, an Adar Sheni, as the Gemara says in Sanhedrin of Yud Alpha Beis, that regarding Aviv, which is the Pesach, has to be specifically in the springtime, and regarding because the fruits of the tree, regarding the Tkufas, they would make certain calculations to see if it's necessary to make an extra so that the lunar year matches up with the solar year, because or else it would continue to have a large gap. You have to add an extra Adar. The Amr of Adbar Ava, B'chein, so to Tanu Sabbath Hagrena, the elders of Hagrena also taught this, that Amr B'Lazar Bar Tzadik, Kishayinu Oiskim Be'ibur Hashana Be'Yavna, when we were involved in making a leap year in Yavna, L'hayinu Mavsikin, we wouldn't stop, Le'le Kriyishma, V'le'le Tefillah, not for Kriyishma even, and not for davening. So you're right, anyone has to stop for Kriyishma, but there's one exception that the Bryce is talking about, Ibra Hashana, because as Taisa explains, we don't want to ruin the Yom Tovim. So that's a very, very important communal need and halachic need, and therefore, even if for Kriyishma, they're not going to stop in the middle of the deliberations, and they're not going to stop even for Kriyishma. Now we continue in the next Mishnah, which was actually really supposed to be the first Mishnah of this Masechta, if you really want to say it the way Taisa says, because the Masechta was going through the order of Shabbos. We only said that we started with Haitzah because we wanted to tell you the halacha of Erev Shabbos, which is this halacha of our Mishnah, that you should not go out with certain things because you might forget and you might carry on Shabbos. So therefore we start off with Haitzah, which is one of these cases that we have to say that you might come to violate the biblical malacha of Haitzah. We wanted to tell you first what it is, because it's a malacha grua, and then the previous Mishnah, which spoke about before Mincha, was only because our Mishnah is going to say regarding Erev Shabbos, we already told you any afternoon what the halacha is regarding Mincha. But this really, in a sense, was supposed to be like the first Mishnah Masechta Shabbos, which starts off the order of the Hilchah Shabbos on Erev Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, and this is actually halacha lamaisa, lo yotze hachayim. A tailor is not supposed to go out b'mechate with his needle samach lechashecha when it's getting close to Shabbos, which place can say that generally like a half hour before Shabbos. Shema yishkoch v'yetze, because he might forget, because he's so used to carrying it, he might carry it when it's already dark time. So you can't go out with your needle because you might come to carry it on Shabbos, even though it's not even Shabbos yet. So to b'loy halavler, you can't have the sefer, the scribe, to go out b'kolmasa with his quill. He's so used to carrying it, he's going to forget that he's carrying it on Shabbos. He's going to carry it, therefore he cannot go out even on Erev Shabbos with it. Now, another halacha that were rabbinic concern was when Shabbos starts, v'lo yifala es kelev. person should not get rid of the lice from his garments on Shabbos. So more later on, the next Daf is going to explain what's the reason. Why would that be coming to a biblical violation? You're not allowed to get rid of the lice, which was very common, so which means like in Talmudic times, from your garments. And v'lo yikra, you're also not allowed to read la'or haner, to the light of the candle. If you're reading it from a sefer, from a book, the concern is that you might come to tilt the candle to bring the oil to the opening of where the wick is, which, as you could see in the visual, there's actually, some people have this in like the Living Torah Museum. They show how they used to have their lamps, which the wick was coming through one side. If the oil gets stuck on one side, you're not going to get such a clear light. So if you tilt it, you'll be able to get more oil to where the wick is and be able to see better. So when you're trying to read what you're reading, absent-mindedly, you might come to tilt it, and you can be doing the malacha daraisa of havara. So because of that, we said you cannot even read to the light of a candle, because that might come to bring to the biblical violation. Now, yeah, this is on Shabbos, exactly. Yeah, it's just related to this idea of transitioning now into Shabbos about the concerns of what might come to bring a malacha daraisa, just like on Erev Shabbos, you might forget. This is, in a sense, the similar type of idea you might forget. Now, says the Mishnah, Be'emes Amr, in truth they said, wherever we say that terminology, that means that's halacha lamaisa, hachazan, which there's two interpretations. Either it means to say the chazan haknesses was like the gabbai. He would be the one to call up the 7 aliyahs. Now, sometimes he wouldn't know where would be the aliyahs starting, so he is raya, he's allowed to look, Heichen Tinek is Karin, where the little children are reading on this Shabbos, meaning, as we're going to explain the Gemara, the little children, they were able to learn from the light of the candle in the shul, because they're afraid of their Rebbe, so they're not going to come to tilt. So he could look on, when they're reading from the parsha on Shabbos, he could look on where they're reading, and just glance to see where the aliyahs start, to be able to tell people, as the gaboyis on the next day. Or another interpretation is actually Chazan is not the gabbai. The Chazan is the school teacher. He could look on, let's say, Friday night, by the light of the candle, to know where they're going to start to teach the children, where to end and start for the children tomorrow. When he's teaching them, he could glance to the light of the candle. Abahula Yikra, but he himself cannot actually sit down and read from his chumash, let's say, from the light of the candle, because that he might come to tilt. But just to glance, let's say, either as the gabbai or as the school teacher, that he could do. Now, continues the Mishnah, Kayetze, by similar idea, totally unrelated to our Mesechta, but similar to the idea that we made a harchaka to distance people from Averis, they said the following halacha. Lo yochel hazav v'mazava. The zav is not supposed to eat with the zava, which a zav is a man that had he had a certain emission from his male member. So too is the zavar, similar in the female version. So they're both tameh. Now, for sure, this halacha that we're about to say is, if he's tahar with the woman that's a zava. But we're saying even if he's a zav and she's a zava, anyways, they're both tameh, they're not allowed to eat a meal together, unless there's something unusual, what's called a heker, between them, because it might come to bring to sin. Meaning, because a husband and wife, they're allowed to do yichud, they're allowed to be secluded together. So if they're eating a meal together, him and her, so although they're both tameh, so we're never concerned with tameh, but if they might come to bring to intimacy, and that's a violation of kares, because it doesn't make a difference, he's a zav. A zav, he cannot have marital relations with a zava, so chiv deiraisa, and with the punishment of kares. So the same idea, we made a rabbinic restriction, so it does not bring to an issa deiraisa, because if we let them eat together, then they might come to bring, which eating together, it brings to friendliness and might bring to intimacy. And therefore we said that no, you have to have some type of a heker as a difference, because it also might come to bring to an issa deiraisa. Now, the Gemara says, Tanan Hasam, we learned in the Mishnah, which is also a halacha lamaisa, and the reason why we're introducing is because it's going to relate directly back to the halacha of the Mishnah. We learned over there in the Mishnah Masechta Zerevin that says as follows: Lo yaman adam b'rishus hayachad. The person should not stand in a private domain and stretch his mouth and his head into the other domain, let's say b'rishus harabim, and hold onto the cup, b'yishta b'rishus harabim, and drink it in the rishus harabim. Now, although technically, really, you're not doing anything wrong, because what's the problem? You're not doing any transportation. You're keeping it in Rishus Harabim, so technically one should be able to drink the cup over here. However, there's a Gezer D'Rabbanan, which maybe as you're drinking, you might bring the cup to where you are, and it's going to come out that you can be chayav v'chatzis because you're doing the malacha of hachnasa, or tzahitza, whatever it is, it depends which direction it is, and you're bringing it inside. So although really not doing anything wrong, but rabbinically we said you're not allowed to do that type of drinking. And so to the opposite. You cannot be B'Shas Harabim, but you should be B'Shas Yachad and drink in the private domain. Aval, but says the Mishnah, Im Hichnes Roishe Verubai Lamakim Trishais. Well, let's say you don't just lean over. You bring your head and the majority of your body to the place that you're drinking. then mutter, then it's going to be permitted. Then we're not concerned that you might come to bring the cup to where you are, and then it's going to be permitted. Says the Mishnah, as a continued base, v'chein begas. The same thing applies to a wine press, which the Gemara is going to explain shortly what that means, which that's going to relate back to the halacha of the Mishnah. Which, Ibarle, the following question. Carmelis, regarding a carmelis, as we explained, one of the domains is a open field, which is rabbinically prohibited to carry from the carmelis to another domain. What's the halacha? Can you stand in Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah, stretch only your head initially, and drink from the carmelis? What would be the halacha over there? So Abaye says, it's the same thing. Just like in the halacha of the Mishnah and Erevin, we said you're not allowed to go ahead and lean over to the other domain and drink. So to over here by the carmelis, it's the same concern. You might come to carry from the carmelis to the Rosh Hashanah. So although it's rabbinic, but ultimately you might come to violate the Issa D'Rabbanan. So therefore we don't let you lean over and carry that way. Rav Amma, as we rule like him, he says no. He gufa, it itself, meaning even if you would carry a vessel from the carmelis to Rosh Hashanah, or from there to Rosh Hashanah, is only a gezeira, it's only a rabbinic decree. Really, a carmelis is a malka b'tur. Biblically, a carmelis is not a Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. You're allowed to carry from there to other places. The Rabbanan said it's similar, however, to like Rosh Hashanah, so they made it rabbinically prohibited to carry. So if carrying from the carmelis in totality, a full carrying, is only rabbinic, so we're going to go ahead and make a rabbinic decree of when you're sticking out your head and drinking there, legezera to a rabbinic decree of that you might come to transfer the kli, which in itself is Issa D'Rabbanan. We don't make what's called Gzera Legezera. And Tais actually explains that Abaya agrees to the concept of that you're not Gzera Legezera, but he says, Abaya only says it regarding the Malacha of Haitzah. It doesn't explain why, but it's regarding Haitzah. And as we're going to see, all the proofs of Abaya are all going to be regarding the Malacha of Haitzah, that they would make a Gzera Legezera. But Rava says, no, we don't make Gzera Legezera, and therefore it's going to be permitted to lean over and drink in the carmelis. So Abaye says, he says, where do I know this from? That actually this is forbidden even from a carmelis to lean over and drink. Because the Tani we learned in the Mishnah, and now we're going to clarify what the Mishnah meant. We said, after we said this Isser, that you're not allowed to lean over into the other domain and drink, we said, v'chein begas. Same thing applies to a wine press. Says Abaye, my gas. What are you adding on when you're saying, and also by the wine press? If the wine press is a private domain, meaning to say, it's 10 tvachim high, and it's 4 tvachim wide. So you're saying that you're not allowed to stand Rosh Hashanah and drink in the wine press by leaning over. Tanina, we already learned that in the Mishnah in Erevin. Erevin already said that you cannot stand in Rosh Hashanah and drink from Rosh Hashanah. What would you be teaching? And in Rosh Hashanah, if it's talking about, no, the wine press does not have a height of even 3 tvachim, and it's in the Rosh Hashanah, therefore it's considered like part of the Rosh Hashanah, Tanina, we learned that too. He said, you're not standing in Rosh Hashanah and drinking Rosh Hashanah. What are you adding on by saying B'chein B'gas? Elalav, isn't it obviously saying that it's referring to a carmelis? A wine press would be like an area of an open field, which it's not totally enclosed. It's not Rosh Hashanah, and it's higher than 3 tvachim, so it's not a Rosh Hashanah. And that's what it's coming to tell us, that by a begas that we're not allowed to lean over. Obviously, it's because we're going in this halacha that even carrying it totally would be rabbanan, we say you're not allowed to lean over and drink from the wine press. So Rav Amma says no. B'chein begas, this that it says, and also by wine press, is talking about a totally different halacha. It's le'inya meiser. It's regarding the laws of tithing. Means to say like this. Generally, you're not allowed to drink from wine that was produced until you go ahead and take off meisers, because it's tevel, it's untithed produce. However, there's halacha when you drink what's called a shtiyas arai or achilas arai, which is a casual eating or drinking. Even then, it's going to be permitted to drink it or eat it without taking off the tithes first. So the halacha, says Rava of the Mishnah, is telling us, if you're drinking on the wine press itself, let's say where the liquid has gathered, where you never took it out from the press itself, that's considered what's called a casual drinking, and you're exempt from meiser as long as the whole activity was not done. Meaning, when you finish the production, then it's usher no matter what the case is. But if production wasn't finished yet, it didn't go down to the pit, meaning first you press it somewhere, then it goes down to the pit where it gathers, and that's where they take the wine and they put it into the barrels. So if it didn't go down to the final pit yet, which is the finishing of the work for meiser, if you eat an achilas kava, if you eat a regular meal, so then it's going to be forbidden. But if you eat a casual eating or a casual drinking, then since the production wasn't finished yet, you're allowed to drink it without taking off meisers. So here, when you're leaning over and drinking from the pit, that's a casual drinking, because who drinks like that? So therefore, v'chein b'gas is telling us that what's by a gas? That you have the same differential if you're leaning over or not. Meaning to say, when you're leaning over, your intention is not to return your intention is to do just a casual drinking, because if you took it out from there, you took a cup and you go out from the wine press, that's considered like a a permanent, what's called the kviyas of eating, because you're not going to return the leftovers, even though the production wasn't finished yet. For maisers, that would be forbidden. You would have to first take off tights before you drink it. What we're saying v'chein bagas is that when you lean over, you can have also a similar leniency that is in regards to laws of maisers, that you don't have to take off trumas and maisers, but nothing to do with the halachas of Shabbos. So therefore, it's not a proof to abaya. It's talking about maisers that when you lean over, you don't have to take off maisers. If you went and you took the cup back to where you are, then you're going to have to take the maisers, and that's the same halacha. We're concerned if you're totally leaning over, not concerned that you're going to take it back to where you are, and therefore then you could drink it without taking maisers. If you're just leaning over, you might come to bring it back where you are, then it's a kaviyas, then you'd have to take off maisers. So again, totally unrelated halacha. V'chein Rav Sheshe says that the Mishnah in Erevin is talking about v'chein bagas. What does it mean also by wine press? It means le'inyan maiser regarding the laws of tights. And now Ditnan, we quote a Mishnah Mesechtes Maisers to show you what this halacha is. What are we talking about that therefore has nothing to do with a raya for abaya? The Mishnah says, Sheisen alagas, you're allowed to drink over a wine press. So imagine you're going to the winery in the Galil, I don't know if you can go now, but you're there in the wine press, and you're leaning over the wine press. You're where they press it. So the first opinion says, Bein alachamin, whether if, in Talmudic times, it was very strong wine, they would dilute it either with hot water or with cold water. So on that, the first opinion says whether you're diluting it with hot water, where then for sure you can't put back the wine anymore because that would make the wine ferment in a polluted way, it would ruin the wine, or bein al tzayna, whether you're diluting it with cold water, either way, it's a casual drinking because you're leaning over the wine press and drinking like that. That's not considered kviyas. So upater, you're going to be exempt from taking off mice. You could drink it just like that. That's the Remeir. It says no, in all situations, whether hot or cold dilution, you are obligated and maesters, because he says since you're diluting it, you're doing what's called mizug, so then that's considered like a kviyas, and you're going to be chayiv to separate maesters. They differentiate. They say alacham and chayiv. If you're doing it with hot water dilution, then you're going to be obligated because you're not putting it back. That's a kviyas. That's obviously something that's more permanent. Al-hatzayin in potter, but if you dilute it with cold water, you're exempt. Nishu machzor as a ma'aser, because the leftovers you're going to put back. It's not like a permanence, because it's all like when you're just in the middle of doing production, you're drinking, but you would put it right back. Therefore, it's not a kviyas, and therefore you're not going to be obligated in maestris. But one thing is, we see from this halacha that there's halacha of by a wine press what's considered kviyas, what not. Kviyas makes you obligated in meister. Non-kviyas doesn't. When we say v'chein bagas, it's not regarding like a Abai wants to prove it must be talking about a carmel. It's not talking about halachas of Shabbos at all. It's about halachas of meisters. We have a similar concept by a wine press regarding meisters. If you're leaning over all the way, then you're not obligated to take off meisters. If not, we're concerned you're going to bring it to where you are, which would be a kviyas, and then you would have to take off meisters before you go ahead and drink from it. So the Gemara continues on this discussion and says that Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, which is going to be difficult on Rava. Now you know why we introduced this whole discussion. The Mishnah said, "Lo yotza chayit b'mechatay." A tailor should not go out with his needle. Samach l'chashich, when it's getting close to be dark for Shabbos. Shemishka chaviyetzi. You might forget that you have your needle, because you're a tailor. You're always busy with your needle. And you might go out and you're going to carry on Shabbos. Says Abaya, my love, isn't it talking about the tchuba loy bebigday? How does the tailor usually carry his needle? It's in his lapel. It's stuck into his garment. Now, it's not normal to carry. You only chayiv for what's considered the normal way of doing a malacha for all the lamates malachas. Now, it's not normal to carry with having a needle in your garment. And even if you're going to carry it when it's already dark, at most it's going to be an iser dirabanan, because that's not the way you carry it. So rabbinically, you say, okay, they say that that's forbidden. Now, what are you doing? You're telling me that you're not allowed to go out with this needle. Erev Shabbos, because you might come do it on Shabbos. Wait a second. Even if you went out like this on Shabbos, that's not the normal way of carrying. You can say rabbinically that's prohibited. But that's a shvus. And now you're telling me that even before Shabbos, you're not allowed to carry that. You see, says Abaya, not like Rava, that you make a shvus to shvus. You can't walk out like that in Erev Shabbos. Otu, you might come like that on Shabbos, which on Shabbos, it's only rabbinic decree in itself. You see, you make a gzeira like gzeira. So on that says the Gemara, no. It's not the case of the Mishnah. The case of the Mishnah is, talking about the naked, the nakali biyad, he's carrying in his hand, if he were to walk out on Shabbos like that, that would be a regular malacha deraisa, that would be one gezerah, and therefore we make that gezerah. So the Gemara says, Tashem, let's try to bring another right, not like Rava. The Brisa says, Lo yatza achayit, the tailor should not go out with the needle that's stuck in his garment. My love, isn't the Brisa talking about Erev Shabbos, and you see that you guys gezerah gezerah, where you see that even though it's in his garment, you cannot walk out on Erev Shabbos, which that would be itself a rabbinic decree, and you make that you can't walk out like that on Erev Shabbos. Says Gemara, no. Kitanya hi b'Shabbos. When did we learn that Brisa that you cannot walk out with the needle in your garment? That's on Shabbos itself. That's one gezerah, because if you're going to go out with it stuck in your garment, you might come to walk out with it in your hand, but it's not Erev Shabbos. On Shabbos, if you walk out, we're saying you cannot walk out like that. That's the rabbinic decree because you might walk out with it in your hand, that's not a raya to abaya. But the Gemara asks, but Vatanya. But we learned the brisa that says like this. It says, Lo yotza achayit b'mechatoi hatchuba b'bigdoi be'erev Shabbos imchashicha. Now Rav is stuck. Up until now he was saying, it's not talking about in his garment, it's talking about in his hand. No, it's not talking about erev Shabbos, it's talking about in Shabbos. You have a brisa that clearly says that he's not supposed to go out with the needle stuck in his garment on erev Shabbos. Now that's clearly a shvus to shvus, and you're making a gzera. In his garment is rabbinic, and in erev Shabbos itself is rabbinic, because you might come to do it on Shabbos, and you see that you make a gzera not like Rava. Says on that, Rava answers, no, it's not a difficulty, because Hamani, who's the time of that brisa, is Rabbi Yehudi, because the Amar, he says, Uman, a craftsman, if he transports derech umnaseh the way that he usually does as a professional, where that's how he sometimes walks out like that during the weekday, he's going to be chayv, he's going to be liable, because for him, that's only one gezer. We're making gezer when it's Erev Shabbos, he might come to do that on Shabbos, because actually if he walks out with the needle in his garment, it is going to be the chayv deraisa v'tzah, because that's how he usually walks around. He has his craft in his, the way he normally can, even though other people don't, but for him that's normal. That's going to be malacha deraisa v'tzah, so it's one shavus. It's not shvus to shvus. Because if he walks out with it stuck in his garment, it's actually the malacha deraisa. The time that we learn in the brisa that it's a machlokes, and this brisa is going like Rabbi Yehuda. The brisa says, Lo yatsa achayit, a tailor should not go out b'machata atchubala b'bigdei, with a needle that's stuck into his garment. But lo yinagar, it goes through different professions. A carpenter should not go out b'kesim sheba'aznai, with the ruler in his ear. But lo yisarik is a fuller, which is someone that they go out and they work with the wool. B'meshicha sheba'aznai, with the cord on his ear. I mean, that they would keep there, like you see sometimes people have a pencil behind their ear, it should say the accountant with the pen behind his ear, or whatever it is. It's talking about each professional, v'legardi, not the weaver, be'ira sheba'aznai, with the stopper in his ear, with that they would make a stopper in the hole. V'leitzava, not the dyer, be'dugma shebetzavar, with the swatch of the wool that's dyed with different colors, different samples on his shoulder. V'leishulchani, and not the money changer, be'dina sheba'aznai, with the coin on his ear, because he would have that money ready, which Rashi explains all these cases are talking about where generally, this professional, when he goes out to the street, he wants people to recognize what type of professional he is and that they should hire him. So he would walk out with this needle in his thing. They would walk out so you could recognize him, that you could hire him. So we're saying that you're not allowed to walk out with these things the way it is on Shabbos. Now, if Yatzabi goes out like this, so Pata Abul Asad, the Meir. Meir says, okay, it's forbidden, but he's Pata because that's not the normal way of transportation. You didn't do the Malacha Deraisa Veitzah. But Rabbi Yehuda, he's the time of the Bryce. He says, no, Uman Derechum Nasei. A craftsman, if he does it the way of his craft, Chayvi is going to be liable. Why? Because for him, it's normal to him to have that needle in his garment. It's normal for the fuller to have that thing on his ear. It's normal for them to carry like that, and therefore that's going to be Malacha Deraisa. Therefore, if he does, he's Chayiv Echatis. Now, Bashar Kol, any other person if he carries it that way, Pata is going to be exempt. So therefore, it says Rava, it's not difficulty, because yes, the Bryce that says you're not allowed to carry in your garment Erev Shabbos is only one shvus, not a shvus to shvus, because it's going like Rabbi Yehuda, who says if you walked out like that on Shabbos, would be the Isser De'iraisa. Now, related to this discussion, the Gemara brings the following contradiction. Tani Chadi, we learned in one Brysa that says Lo Yotze Hazav B'Kisei. The Zav should not go out with his pouch. What's the pouch? What's talking about is that the Zav has this a mission that will come out of his male member. So he doesn't want to. He's going to put a pouch to hold the Zav, the ziva that drips out of his member. Now v'miyatza, so he's not going to go out like that on Shabbos. If he goes out with that pouch, patra abalasa, it's forbidden, but he's going to be exempt. He's not chayv the issur deraisa b'tzah. Now, but Tani Yichulin, another Bryce that says, no, lo yotz is not going to go out. If he goes out, chayv chatas. He's going to be liable for karma chatas. So how do we resolve the contradiction? Is the pouch that he's carrying considered the malacha deraisa b'tzah or not? Some of you, so he says, loy kasha. So he resolves the question, not a difficulty. He says, why? Ha Reb Meir. The one that says you're going to be pater is like Reb Meir, who he says everyone has to be normal to carry like that. Most people not walking around with this pouch around the male member, and therefore you're going to be pater, as we just quoted Reb Meir before, even though it's normal for a certain individual to walk out like that, but if not everyone walks out with, let's say, a needle in their garment, that's not the malacha deraisa. Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, that's why the Gemara is introducing this contradiction over here. Oh, and that other Bryce that says that you can be chayv is going like Rabbi Yehuda. He says as long as it's the normal for that person, let's say that professional, to walk out like that, it's considered malacha deraisa v'tzah. So that's the same thing over here. This zav, it's normal for him to walk out with the pouch. So therefore, it's considered for him malacha deraisa, and that's why you're going to be chayv v'chatas. However, Amalei Abai disagrees with that interpretation. He says, no, because when did we hear for a mayor that says you're going to be pater? Is only something That's not really the normal way. Like all those things we mentioned before, that's not the normal way, even for the craftsman, as Rashi explains. He usually carries his needle in his hand. It's only when he wants to go ahead and let people know what professional he has, so he has that nice little, signature needle he has in his garment, and he's walking around and says, okay, I see he's the tailor, and he's walking around like that. But even for him, it's not how he normally carries it. If he carries it, he would carry it in his hand. If let's say he's going to do a job, he's going to do a house call to mend something, he would carry it in his hand. So therefore, that's where Meir says, okay, if you carry it in your lapel, you carry it in your garment, that you're going to be pater. But something that's totally the norm for that person. Let's say the zav for the pouch, the only way he's going to carry the pouch is the way it is around his member. Did we hear that even Rameh would say that you're going to be pater? In other words, you cannot tell me the machlekes of the brises. The one that says you're going to be chayiv is Rabbi Yehuda, the one that says you're going to be pater is Rameir, because Rameir would not hold you pater the way you just described. Rameir would agree that you're going to be chayiv, because for the zav, that's the only way he carries it. It's not like the case of the professor where even he himself doesn't always do like that, even though sometimes he does, to say that he says you're going to be pater. Here, the only way he does, and Rameir would agree that you'd be chayiv, as the Gemara proves. Because if you don't say this, Rameir agrees that if the only way someone transports something, even though he's the only one, but that for him it's the only way he does it, that's going to be considered as a chiv deraisa. But then take the following case. Hedyot, a regular person, what's called an amateur. Let's say he carves out something in a log on Shabbos, where he's doing a malacha on Shabbos. So are you going to tell me, Rameir, according to Rameir, are you going to tell me that he's not going to hold that you're going to be liable? Because I'll tell you, an amateur is not a professional. That's the way the amateur is doing it is not the normal way of carving out. Are you going to tell me, according to Rameir, he's going to be pater because you didn't do it the way it's supposed to be done? Then according to Rameir, you're generally not going to be chayiv issa d'oraisa on Shabbos unless you're a professional who does it in the right way. Obviously, since the normal way of this person, the way he carves out, is done like this, so when he does that on Shabbos, so he's going to be chayiv. So therefore, says the Gemara here also, since the normal way of the zav is to transport the pouch the way he's doing it at all times, so he would be chayiv. So you cannot tell me the brother says you're going to be pater. Is Rameir, because Rameir would agree in this case where the only way he takes out the pouch is like this, and therefore actually in Shabbos he would agree to be chayiv achadas. So how do we understand the contradiction of the brayse that says you're going to be pater? So Elam Rav Hamnuni says a different resolution. He says, look, it's not difficulty. Khan, the brayse says that you're going to be chayiv achiv da'iraisa but transporting the pouch on Shabbos is bezav bal shtei re'iyas. It's regarding a zav that had two emissions. Now what's important to know is that there's halachas regarding ziva. There's a difference between 2 emissions for a male and 3 emissions. 2 emissions is going to be tamei, but he's only going to be chayiv carbon if he has 3 emissions. Then he becomes what's called the biblical zav in the sense of bringing a carbon after his shiv and the after 7 days of cleanliness. So therefore it says the Gemara as follows. The brayse that said when you're chayiv is talking about if you had 2 emissions, now when you have the pouch, you know why you're going to be chayiv is because you need the pouch. Why do you need the pouch? You need it to check if you had a 3rd emission. Because if you have a 3rd emission, you're going to be chayiv for carbon. So since you need the pouch because you need to see, you don't know what's happening. You only have, if you have a pouch, you know if something came out. So you need it. So therefore, that's the normal way of transporting the pouch because that's the way you need it so that you could tell. Now, but the brayse says you're going to be pater is bezav bal gimel riyas. Is talking about when you already had 3 emissions. So now you don't need to know if you have a 4th or 5th emission. It doesn't make a difference. You have a carbon anyway. So since you don't necessarily need it, so that's not the normal way for such a zav to walk out. Therefore, you're going to be pater. But however, the Gemara asks, wait a second, I don't understand. Why is it any different when you have a zav that's 2 emissions? That then he's going to be chayiv, because like we just explained, because you need it for the inspection. You need to know, did you have another one that you chayiv a carbon? So zav bal gimel nami mibayle. Why do you need it? You already had the maximum. You already had. You know why you need it? Is l'sfira. For the counting. There's a pasuk in Vayikra Tezvav that says, when the zav becomes tar, which is after he counts 7 clean days. So why does the one who had 3 need the pouch? Because he has to verify, was today a clean day? Did I not have a discharge? Because if on any one of the 7 days he has a discharge, it's actually going to undo his 7 clean days because they have to be continuous. Like the pasuk says, l'taharas, it means that you have to 7 days of contiguous purification, then not to have any time in between. So you actually do need the pouch, even if you had 3 days, because you need it for 7 days in a row. You need to have the pouch to see that you didn't have a discharge. So that should also be considered chiv chatas. Why is that the brayse says you're going to be pater? Says no, we need it. It's talking about the 3rd day that you had the 3rd discharge was on Shabbos, where then you don't need the pouch anymore that day because a day that you had a discharge cannot be counted from the Shiva Nekiyim. It has to be a totally clean day from when the day started till the day ended. So the day that you had that third discharge anyway is not counted Shiva Nekiyim. So you don't need it to add to the count of being Chayav HaKavim because you already had 3. And you don't need it for Shiva Nekiyim. That's going to be the brisa that says that you're going to be Pater because it's not necessary and therefore that's not the Derech HaBeitzah. But on that, as the Gemara, but V'hami Ba'ilei, no, you do need it. Why you need it? Very simply, hygienic. Kadesh Leitan for Caleb, that it doesn't soil his garments. He doesn't want to ruin whatever garments he's wearing. So that's why you do need it. So that should be considered a need, and therefore that should be considered the Chiv Deraisa Beitzah. So Rabbi Zeri says, Hi Tana, who you know who's the Tana of this Brisa? Is the Amar that he says, Kalatzuli Tinif, anything that's just protecting that it should not become soiled, like a chashav, that's not considered significant, and therefore that's not considered a hitzah to be chayiv. The non Leglin the Mishnah Masechtas Machshir, and this is the following halacha. If someone covers a plate over a wall, which rain is coming on. Now, says the Mishnah as follows. If the reason why he's putting the plate over the wall is because he actually wants that the plate should be cleaned. So now when the water comes onto the plate, he's creating a significance on these liquids. He's showing that he wants the liquids because he wants it to clean the plate. Now, what's important for that is because there's halacha regarding tumah of hechsher, that you could only make a tumah on a food item when it becomes in contact with one of the 7 liquids. Now, those liquids are only if you desire them to be a liquid. If you didn't want it to be a liquid, even if it falls on the food item, or the food item wanting to become a contact liquid, you have to have somewhat of a ratzon. Only that does it become what's called kiyutan. It says kiyitin when you're going to put, but it's written kiyutan to tell you that if you wanted it to be put on that food item, you wanted it to be water, let's say even if you wanted it initially or at the end, it doesn't make a difference. At one point you wanted the liquid, if it falls on the food item, it's going to be what's called susceptible, hukshul kabel tumah. So that says the Mishnah. If you wanted the water to fall on the plate on the wall because you wanted to clean the plate, so then when subsequently that water falls on Paris, so then, so now these pairs are going to be what's called in the pasuk of Vayikra bechiyutan, which means say they're huksher, they're susceptible to be makabel tuma, because as the Mishnah teaches in the beginning of Masechet Machshirin, any liquid that you wanted, even just initially, even if at the end you don't even want it when it's falling on the pairs, it's too late, you wanted the liquid, it's going to make it huksher kabel tuma. So therefore, if you wanted to clean the plate, you wanted those liquids. But in Mishvil, let's say if you want, as you continue to have a bit bezam and avshla yilka kaisa, let's say the only reason why you were putting the plate on the wall so that the wall should not become dirty, that's only what's called atzulei tinif. That's just you don't want it. You just want that plate to protect the wall. Eina b'chiyutan. Then it's not going to make the water as if desirable to make it b'chiyutan, and therefore it's not a significant act of the plate covering the wall. So says the Gemara, that's who the Tana that Bryce says. Yes, you want to have that pouch to protect you from getting dirty, but that's like considered a significant act because you don't really want that, and therefore here too, you don't want that liquid. Turning the plate upside down is not considered a significant act in relation to the water, and therefore it's not going to be machshured, and therefore here it's not going to be considered act of itself. But the Gemara says, wait, me dummy, is it comparable? Hasam over there when you turn over the plate, you don't want the liquids at all. If it was up to you, you would have had that the rain would have not came down. So, although that when you're turning over the plate, you're doing a significant act regarding the plate, but we are talking about regarding significance of the liquid of the water. So, the whole point of turning over the plate is only that it's actually revealing that you don't want the water at all. So, therefore, yes, it's not going to make the water into kiyutan that it should make a food item susceptible for tumah. But hach over here regarding the laws of Shabbos, what are we considering as significance? Is the malacha havitzah when you're taking out the pouch that is significant? Kabaylahu like is because you need the pouch, the kabula beziva, so that it could hold, it could accept the ziva discharge that's coming, or it shouldn't go on his clothing. Do you actually do need it? Actually, that should be chiv havitzah, because as the Gemara says, holy dami, this cannot be compared. Ella, rather, if you want to compare it to the laws of hechsher zraim, which we were just comparing it to, actually, you don't compare it to what you just said. Compare it l'seifa to the end, which I'm not going to go through the cheshbainis, but Rashi brings the whole text of the Mishnah over there. I'll read it in the abridged version, the way the Gemara says it. A reva, a bowl, shiur delif l'taicha, where if, let's say, the water drips and leaks into the bowl itself, which that's significant because unlike the case of when you turn it upside down, if let's say you're turning it right side up, and it's even if you're using it that it shouldn't ruin the wall, but the fact that you didn't turn it upside down, you turned it right side up, that means to say you're considering it significant because you want to accept whatever rain is coming inside of it. So then ma'imani tazin, so the water that splashes v'hanitzafim or that spills somewhere else, therefore that's going to have halacha of einan b'chiyutan. it's not going to have the halacha as bichayutan. Sorry, this is the first case when you turned it, because I was doing the abridged version, that turned it right upside down, then you didn't consider the water significant. But if let's say you turn the right side up and it's leaking inside of it, so then harei bichayutan, that's going to be considered bichayutan, because you're showing that you want it, even though it's to protect, but it's a protection by that it should drip in here. Let's say you have an air conditioner that's leaking. So you don't want it to ruin the carpet. So you can turn it upside down so it should leak off. But if you turn it right side up, you're showing that you want it to come in over here. So although it's latzili tinif, but you're doing it in a way to receive it, so then harei bichayutan, that's considered bichayutan. It's going to actually make that water that you're showing you want the significance. And therefore, says the Gemara here too, by the haitzah of the pouch, you're showing that you want the pouch to accept the ziva. So although you don't want the discharge at all, but we're not talking about the discharge, we're talking about transporting of the pouch. And that the pouch you do want. So therefore, to the contrary, you would say that you would be chayiv. So again, we're back to the question, why are we saying the brayso that you're going to be pater? Even when you had 3 discharges, even if it's just to save yourself from getting filthy, you see that's considered that you want that. So as the Gemara, this is where the Gemara ends, loy kash, not difficulty. How the brayso says you're going to be chayiv is Rabbi Yehuda, which is an important concept we'll talk about in the rest of the Masechta of Shabbos, what's called malacha she'ina tzricha legufa. When you're doing an activity that you don't need for it itself, meaning you don't really want to do what you're doing. You don't even want the purpose of what you're doing. Like in this case, you don't even want the discharge, and the whole reason why you have the pouch is to get rid of the discharge. Even so, you're going to be chayiv, which the machlek is later on in Daf Tzaddik Beis, when let's say you're taking out a dead person with the bed. Now, when you're taking out the dead person, it's not a malacha she'tzricha legufa. You don't want the dead person over there. You just don't want it over here. It's called malacha she'ina tzricha legufa. You don't need it. You don't need the transportation. So therefore, that's where we have machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda says you're chayv of malacha she'ina tzricha legufa. So here you don't need the pouch because you don't even want the ziva and the pouch in the first place. You don't want it to be here. We'll explain later on in the concepts of this malacha. That's where you're going to be chayv. V'ha Reb Shimon, but this halacha that says you're going to be potter is going like Reb Shimon. The malacha she'in gufa is potter. So again, we introduced this whole machlekes because we thought it's going to be the opinions we mentioned before, Rabbi Yehuda and Meir, which we introduced before regarding if it's normal for this professional to do that way. We said it's not, and we said ultimately it's a machlekes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda regarding malacha she'in gufa. So some ideas we spoke about today, and as you can see, I'm still experimenting with different ways and formats. We learned in Daf Yomi Masechta Shabbos, we had different teaching from that same Amora. We spoke about that one should not have the roof of their houses higher than that of the shul. That same Amora said that you should rather work for an Arab employer than work for the descendants of Esav, and so too even more than a Talmid Chacham, and for sure not to work under Yasam and Almana where one could be punished for that. We said that any illness but not an intestinal illness. We said that any pain but not a heart pain. We said any ache but not a headache. We said if all the seas would be ink and all the heavens would be parchment, etc., we would not be able to understand the depth of the calculations of the government, which has to take so many things into consideration. We said that a fast is good for a bad dream. That's what we call a Tainas Cholam, and it's on that day and even on Shabbos. We said that, we went back to the halacha of the Mishnah. We said you're not supposed to stop for davening. We said, why are you saying a second time? We already said in the Mishnah. It says it's Toma, even if you're learning Torah, you don't stop for Shemayna Esrei. But we said that specifically for someone that like Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, that Torah sub nasai. But for us, we stop for Kriyishma and we stop for davening too if we're middle learning. Now, the Brisa says even for Kriyishma you don't stop. That's Toma for Be'ibur Shana, when they're making a leap year, then they don't stop the deliberations even to say Kriyishma. We went to the next Mishnah that says that the tailor should not go out with his needle samach lechashecha because he might come to forget. So too, we said different halachas which we can explain later on. You're not supposed to what's called delouse, get rid of the lice from your garments, and to read to the light of the candle because you might come to tilt it, which is going to be the Issa Derais. And similarly, which is unrelated halacha, but that we made a rabbinic decree atu Issa Derais was a zav should not eat with a zava because they might be intimate and then mechayiv the Issa Derais of cars. Related to the halacha of the Mishnah, we said that a person should not stand Rosh Hashanah and drink Rosh Hashanah. And we had a machlekes regarding a carmelist. I mean to say, we said because if you might drink, you might come to bring the cup to you, unless you have the Reisha Berubai in that domain, then you could. What's halacha with a carmelist? So on that, Abai wanted to prove of the Chen Begas of the Mishnah that says so too in the wine press. What are you adding on? Obviously, talking about a carmelist. That even there you're not allowed to. But Rava disagreed. He says, no, it's actually talking about the laws of Meiser. Regarding Meiser, when you're leaning over the domain. So then, if you're all the way your body, so then it's considered achilas arai, then you don't have to take off meisters. When you're just leaning over, then you might come to bring it back, which would be a kviz, because you're not going to put it back. That's where we said that you would have to separate ties. That's what it means v'chem begas, regarding laws of meiser. But actually, regarding a carmelist, he said, no, ain't geyser gzer. You don't make a decree for a decree. And therefore, you actually would not have that problem. You would be able to lean over and drink in a carmelist, because it itself is a derais, a derabanan. We're not going to make a issa derabanan for issa derabanan. So the Gemara says, I will learn the Bryce that says, you're not let it go, and even if it's stuck into the garment, which rabbinic, you're not doing Erev Shabbos, which is Gzeir L'Gzeira. So that Rav explained, that's going to be Huda, who says, Uman Derechum Nasa, which that took us to the end of the daf, which he says that if it's normal for a professional, so then, for him, it's going to be the Issa Deraisa. For him, he cannot walk out like that on Erev Shabbos. Now, similarly, we had a contradiction of Bryces. We had a Bryce that says that a Zav with his pouch, we had one that says you can be chayiv, and one says you're not going to be chayiv. So we said, oh, you know what it is. Rabbi Huda is the one that says you can be chayiv because for him, it's normal for him to walk out like that. Rabbi Meir says, no, it has to be everyone walking out like that, so they're going to be potter. Abai says, no, Rabbi Meir would agree in this case because the only way that the Zav walks out is with his pouch. In contrast to the case we mentioned before, where even the professional doesn't always walk out like that. That's what he says you're potter. But he would agree that you'd be chayiv. So how do we resolve the contradiction? So we went to find a different interpretation. We said that the one that says yichayiv is when you have two discharges. Then you need the pouch because you want to see if you had a third discharge. That's for the carbon. The one that says you can be potter is talking about that you already had 3 discharges, so and it's on that same day the third discharge, and therefore it doesn't make a difference for even shivin the kiyim because you cannot count the kiyim, so therefore it doesn't make a difference. It's not considered a normal way of tzah. That's the Bar says you're going to be potter. But then the Gemara asks, but you do need it even if you had the third discharge that same day, and you don't need it for shivin the kiyim, but you need it because you don't want your garments to be soiled. And that says the Gemara, that's not considered significant because Latzuli Tinuf is not considered Haitzah. And the Gemara rejects that because the Gemara says it's like the case of when the dripping, although when you turn the plate upside down and it's just to protect, it would not be considered Kiyutan. But if you're putting the bowl up, right side up and it's dripping inside, that is considered Kiyutan. So you see, even Latzuli Tinuf, even according to that Manda Amma, would be considered significant for that bowl that you wanted, and therefore here also the pouch would be considered significant. So rather the Gemara concludes a different interpretation. The Brisa says you're going to be chayv is like Rabbi Huda, who their machlekes regarding melacha shen tzrich leguf, he holds that you can be chayv, and the one that says you're pot is Rabbi Shimon. We'll learn later on the Masechta holds that melacha shen tzrich legufa you're going to be pot. Thank you to any time for hosting us.